Jorge Arrizurieta. I am President and CEO of the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, which is where business thrives, community flourishes. I am incredibly excited, motivated, and energized for the next 100 days. I just completed my first 100 days, and I am furthermore excited for the completion of year one, together with the support of this community, the support of the private sector, the support of the great small business community of Coral Gables, which is the majority of Coral Gables. I know we're going to continue to do great things. We're going to continue to help this chamber get to the next level.
Well, welcome. Thanks for coming by tonight. I'm really excited. I'm very honored, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have the chance to sit down with you and talk about your first 100 days. Just like the President of the United States, I get to talk to you about your first 100 days at the Coral Gables Chamber. For me, again, just joining. We're back in the mix here. We've been members for a long time, and then we got away, and now we're back, and I'm happy to help you with whatever you need. Obviously, we're always going to be here.
You have been members before?
Yeah, a long time. Yeah, Dan, my partner Dan, the founder of our firm, he was actually one of the chair people or vice chairs for one of the committees. He knew Mark pretty well, and then we got away from it. I mean, probably around 17, 18. And the pandemic happened, and we have all these other organizations that we jumped into to kind of, or not.
And what the committee was involved with?
And probably real estate. I don't know if there was an insurance one back then, but it was probably real estate. That's why when I told you we're going to jump in, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to go to membership committee, real estate committees tomorrow. I wanted to kind of give you the chance to speak through a couple of questions. What it's like, in the first 100 days of taking this role, such a major role in Coral Gables and the city beautiful. So, let's start very simple. When you first stepped in 100 days ago, what did you find right away that the chamber needed the most? And what did you learn that surprised you right when you started?
First and foremost, I think it's important to accept the reality that an organization, especially one like this, has been around for 100 years. One like this who was, I was preceded by a gentleman who was, larger than life kind of figure, figuratively and literally. He was a big boy, but he was really larger than life in that he was an incredibly charismatic, smart, witty guy. And there's no denying that. It's Mark. I need more. Yeah. I was never active in the chamber, or not a board member, or participated, in any formal. But I knew Mark, and I knew him well, because you have to be either asleep or not too smart or living under a rock to not know Mark Trowbridge if you're involved in the community. And I knew that following in Mark's footsteps was going to be a challenge from the standpoint of everybody's expectations of who's going to succeed this larger than life figure. And no one expects, I hope not, expects that he was going to be replaced, because I am who I am and he was who he was. But there are expectations that the board members, that the community has, because they lived and worked with him, and he was completely immersed into this chamber for 19 years. This chamber was his life. That chamber was his life. So I knew it was going to be a challenge from the standpoint of being compared, or from the standpoint of trying to follow in the footsteps, from the standpoint of being defined by what Mark did or didn't do. Yet that to me was not something to be concerned about or afraid of. Quite the contrary, it became, frankly, further reason to try to get this job, want to get this job, because of the challenge of following somebody who was accomplished as he was. I mean, that's the God honest truth of how I felt and how I feel. And everything I expected in that regard is sort of what's happened. Most people are not going to compare you or talk to you about this, but I know deep down inside, every time I open my mouth at an event, it's going to happen. It's normal. And I consider that to be a great opportunity for me to just work harder to be, better than I could ever be, work harder to make sure that I live up to my expectation, and work harder to make sure that we do the very, very best. And the very, very best is as simple and as basic, Matt, as, even great things should be made greater. Even good things should be made better. It's just the reality of life. This place is far from perfect. It's far from being, a place that doesn't need, growth, opportunity. It doesn't, so it's just like any other organization. When you peel that onion back, that proverbial onion that's say, or the orange back, whatever you want to peel back, you realize there are things to be done. And to me, those are all opportunities and not problems. So I arrived 100 plus days ago with nothing but lots of energy, passion, commitment, and desire to work my tail off, which is what I've always done my entire career. So I think that when you first land in a job, any job, especially one as public as this, with all these expectations I was talking about, you've got to work really hard at listening. And it's not just to say the right phrase, hey, I'm going to go on my listening tour, et cetera, et cetera. It's you really got to do it because, especially someone like me who came in with no baggage, good or bad, because I was not part of the chamber before, you got to play catch up and you got to really understand what's on the minds of your board at a minimum, your trustees, your leadership, your biggest supporters, your donors. And I think I've done that. I think I've done a good job of listening. I'm still doing it. I think I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of my existence here because that's just my nature. But I'm going to continue to do it until I meet with every single trustee, every single board member. I'm almost done with that. Of course, my executive committee and my donors. And that's a process that I think has helped me enormously kind of figure out what that strategy is and where do I begin.
So you're finding your way and you're listening and trying to be actionable, to take action.
That's correct. I'm not a very patient person. So I recognize that things don't happen overnight if you're going to do them right, nonetheless. But I'm also the kind of professional that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. So you got to spend the time, invest the time to do the listening. But you also, at a certain point, and this is where I'm at, you've got to get ready to roll the sleeves and take action. Do the things that need to get done. Some are short term, some are mid term, some are longer term. And I'm also the kind of professional that likes to make decisions with data. So it's not just about my opinion because this is what I think. It's because we've gathered the data, we've talked, we've had the conversations, we've had we made the time to create the dialogue, which is what gives you the ability to have a narrative. I mean, it can't come just because I think this. I mean, that's why you have to take your time. But patience is not a virtue that I was given by God, so I pray every day for patience because I will not get it all done yesterday.
Of course, you need a balance of that. You need both, right? Patience, but you need that hunger and that go get it attitude, right? So now that we're going to get back to listening in a second, but I want to talk about, so first 100 days, if you're going to give a state of the chamber address, right? What would you say is working well or mediocre? And where do you see immediate change that's necessary right now?
So I think all business organizations, especially those of our size, of our type, based on the demographic, Coral Gables is really such a blessed community from every which way. I mean, it's a beautiful. We're not just a city beautiful because we say we are, but it really is a beautiful city that is, George Merrick's vision of what he wanted to do with Coral Gables 100 years ago. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary, much like the city is, much like the University of Miami is, much like the Biltmore Hotel. And that's all because George Merrick founded this city and believed that for a city to be the kind of city he envisioned, it had to have these major institutions. So at the same exact time, George Merrick, who was a developer, right, designed a city. I think he would have been very proud of his vision if he still lived.
Yeah.
And again, not perfect, but I think he would have been very, very happy because this is a city whose demographic is coveted from every which way. I mean, as you know, we've had recently lots of press on surpassing Beverly Hills in as far as the affluent community of that like size, like type, if you will, and that's a great analogy. It's a source of pride. Obviously, it's also a source of concern for those who want to move and live here. and realize it's an expensive place to be. So housing is an expensive reality anywhere in the world these days, but especially in some of these major metropolitan areas, states like Florida, where it's become so coveted, given what it has to offer from a climate standpoint, no pun intended, not just the weather, but from a economic climate and from a climate of governance. Yet, it's a highly governed, if you will, kind of community because of the many restrictions and regulations. Residents would say it's so expensive. I mean, well, expensive it is, but it's so difficult to get a permit. They're so strict, and all those other things that make up a community. Eventually is referred to beautiful. It comes because it's highly controlled to meet the requirements that, in this case, the city of Coral Gables has developed. But the point really being that it happens, but because there's a lot of folks who are committed to that vision that George Merrick, thought of at one point in time, 100 years ago.
And development and construction, I think, is a core backbone of the city, and part of probably George Merrick's dream of the other day. But with that being said, I think you bring up a good point about economic and the business climate. We're getting every day more and more people coming from other states, especially down in Miami, right down in Coral Gables. So there's this unique ecosystem, I think, in Coral Gables that you don't find in many places that has a lot to do with what you just mentioned. The standard that is set here in the city. And, when you're talking about listening, who I've been talking to, the major players in the city, the folks that are coming, that are going to be new players in the city, and kind of what trends and pressures are you hearing from them and seeing them attack at the moment?
So the Chamber's largest stakeholders are the city as a municipality, the city of Coral Gables. Its government is a major, I'd say the greatest shareholder, greatest stockholder. The other stockholder and stakeholder that is a very vital one is the University of Miami. University of Miami is not just because of its football as of late. Unfortunately, we didn't win the other day.
They fought well. They fought well.
It's a great game. They're definitely back, as they say, back 20 plus years later. They're at the not only at the table but on the field again. And I think there's going to be years of that to come for a while. But the University of Miami is the largest employer by far in the city of Coral Gables, and it's one of the largest employers in Miami-Dade County. So, from a stakeholder perspective, the city and the university are among the important partners that the Chamber has worked very closely together to sort of help maintain this ecosystem that's been created in this relatively small footprint, because we're not not a huge city. I mean, we're a city of a population of about 50,000, which is, in comparison to, cities around the country, it's considered a relatively small city, but big enough from a standpoint of the corporate presence, the small business presence. It's a city that really has it all. We have a significant business community, significant residential portion of the city, and of course, it's not a city where there's heavy industry or it's really small business and corporations, but the corporate community that has built around this, that has located their headquarters around this city, has given us a very particular identity. And every day that is all the more strong because players such as FIFA, for FIFA to choose the city of Coral Gables to place one of their significant headquarter locations worldwide, not just for the World Cup happening this year. It's actually here located permanently for the future as a significant location in the United States. It's just a huge compliment, a huge tribute to the community. It becomes a very significant calling card that we have to hold in high regard, and we do. It's not just FIFA, it's Apple, and it's Ryder, and it's a number of significant, public and private companies. At one point, it used to be more than anything else a large core of Latin American and Caribbean headquarter offices for multinationals. That still exists, but it's not limited to that. Obviously, the majority of the business in America, actually across the world, but in America, is small business. Well, City of Coral Gables is no different. We have at our chamber 1,600 members. 800 of those are businesses.
Yeah.
The great majority are small business. So it's really a dynamic demographic that is coveted by many. There are a few things that have this kind of residential strength and base, not to mention beauty. Friends such as you from the Northeast continue to honor us every day.
Yep.
And like I said earlier, it's not just the weather as in the climate, but it's the actual business climate.
Yeah.
And the leadership that I think has in the last 10 years has really defined who we are in Florida. I think this governor has done a great job about being not just pro-business, but being a governor that's strong on limited government. So everybody needs a government to regulate. Everybody needs government to have a governance structure to provide safety and security for its residents. But no one needs too much government, over-regulating our daily lives. Right? Florida has created a climate that's been of interest to New Yorkers and Californians that are moving away from what they have had to endure in their respective states. And we're the beneficiaries of that.
Still coming. Everyone's still coming.
Seems to be the case.
Yeah. Well, good. So now let's talk. Let's segue into kind of membership, right? You said 1,600 members, 800, about half are small business owners. I've met a ton of them already at some of the events that I've already attended, and it's again, this ecosystem that we're talking about is I think very differentiated. I mean, you have, like you said, big international companies all the way down to small businesses, and it's kind of like everyone is together here. We're all working, in the same direction, which is great. But from a membership standpoint, you assume that most chambers would focus just on numbers, just on members. And that is certainly a part of how things are moving here in the Coral Gables Chamber. However, you've also spoken about engagement. You've spoken about impact. It sounds like to me when I hear you speak, you want to do more. Yes, it's about membership, but also value, in my opinion, what that means. So today, how do you think you're going to be able to redefine, maybe if you need to, what it means to be an active chamber member, or in general, what is the baseline? What is the value to an active chamber member today?
That's a great question. So, chambers, and it's not just a struggle of the Coral Gables Chamber. I think chambers as a whole, probably worldwide. Let's just focus on the U.S. struggle with the one reality, which is the proverbial retention, right? So, getting a member is sometimes easier than retaining a member. And as we were all taught in Business 101, much more expensive to get a new member than it is to keep an existing client, right? So I meant to say client. So the Business 101 lesson is, go grab a new client. It's going to cost you more than keeping the one you already have. So while that is no different the case with membership retention of a business organization, organizations such as this struggle with this reality because human nature is human nature. Sometimes chambers get set in their ways and they're kind of focused on just adding members. So they become like membership mills.
It's like a mill,
as opposed to an organization who, once they get the member, focuses on providing the added value and providing the significant return on the investment. So justifying the member's reason for being here. So that's a proverbial ROI, right? So we are struggling with that like any other chamber does. And my focus, since I arrived here, and especially since the 100th day celebration, is to set up the systems that are absolutely unequivocally required to make sure that you don't make that mistake where you are just pushing out members, and once you get them in, then you figure out, we'll get to that somehow. The priority has to be retention, because if you set up the systems where you give the member the value for being here, the value for staying involved, the value for being a member at this level and at that level, and whatever it is that you offer and when I mean benefits, every category of member has its respective list of benefits, and that could very well be anything from X number of special events for the highest donor base member, or it could very well be a list of things. And I can give you real specifics rather than hypotheticals in the case of what we do at the Coral Gables Chamber. But perfecting that is among my highest priorities, because it's natural for organizations to sort of go a little stale, forget about the value of doing that when it really needs to be the priority, because there's a lot of civic leaders, a lot of companies that are completely committed to the corporate social responsibility of being an active partner, an active donor, an active supporter of community issues. It's usually the bigger companies, but not limited to. So, of course, the Baptist health systems, the American Airlines, all these bigger companies that are headquartered here have a commitment to being a part of the community, and those are usually going to be members. But the worst thing you ever do is take them for granted, just because they are big players and because they have bigger budgets. Doesn't mean they don't justify what contributions they make on the civic side, on the business association side. So, among the things that we are doing, overtime, and we're really working overtime hours and razor focus on, is perfecting these benefits that we've listed as benefits that the members receive for being, let's say, a member of the Board of Trustees or a GEM. A GEM member at the Coral Gables Chamber is a $5,000 a year level donor, and GEM stands for George E. Merrick, which is, as I mentioned earlier, a world famous developer and founder of Coral Gables, and founder of a bunch of other things, as I said, including the University of Miami and the Biltmore Hotel. So, or if I were to say, divide up in the area of focus, your highest priorities, well, it's in the category of retention of members. And that's something we're going to be always focused on. But for the foreseeable future, it's going to be priority number 1, number 2, and number 3. So in my listening tour, if you will, I heard from a lot of board members, trustees, and GEMs, and all kinds of stakeholders that while they were not going to not be a member of the chamber, they wanted me to pay special attention to assessing the added value we provide for being members and what return on the investment, because there was some question about whether that was really happening or not.
So I hear, the value proposition is important, obviously, your role, and that's what you're trying to articulate to everybody now. First 100 days, I'm sure it's maybe changed your mind a little bit, and you're getting to a place where you're able to do that on the fly. I had a membership committee meeting the other day. I saw you there, but that opened my eyes too. We looked at the numbers, we looked at the value, we looked at doing things to present that to the world out there, and doing testimonials and things like that. So I feel like we're going to be able to get that moving, get that train moving, like I always say, and do that. I think one of the things if someone would ask me, and this is something I hear from you and now the membership committee, it's not transactional. You're not looking for a transaction. I think it's very, very important. Business 101, we talked about value companies or growth companies, right? We're not a growth company. We're just trying to transaction, get another member, get another. No, it sounds like you're building a machine that's going to be, added value to everybody. That's going to enjoy it. I'm already getting value just to tell the world out there, being able to talk to you. You know what I mean, to my trusty diplomat. I've had an amazing 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. And I can't imagine what the next 12 months is going to look like. And certainly, again, value over transaction, I think, is what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from you guys. So that's great. So let's talk a little bit more about your this whole notion about the partnerships and the collaborations that you mentioned before, whether it's a big international company, a domestic a domestic-based large company, or a small business. How are you seeing in South Florida in general, and how's the chamber helping businesses kind of prepare for what you might think is happening in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? We're in this cycle here. I think is very different than the rest of the country. We're seeing constant inflow. We're seeing people come California, from Chicago, from New York, right, from New Jersey, and they're coming down here for the environment you described before, and why the governor did what he did in the past couple of years here. But from the standpoint of your partnerships and collaborations, how might that change in the next or 3 to 5 years in your vision and what you have going forward?
Well, it's change is the only thing that's ever constant is change, right? It's just a reality of life. And communities that got to prepare, much like, we down here have lived in a culture that gets prepared for hurricane season. Because, right. And it's been a while. We've been spoiled with being, not, knock on wood, thank God. We've been blessed with not having a significant one in a few years here, of course. You weren't a resident then, but I grew up, I was born here and grew up here, and Andrew is something that, Hurricane Andrew is something nobody forgets, especially folks in your industry. And that was probably the worst that we've had. Actually, was the worst we've had. I think the one that preceded Hurricane Andrew in 1992 was probably, I forget the name of the hurricane, but I know it was the year I was born in 1965. I forget the name. I should know that off the top of my head, because I was kind of born in that week of bad weather. So you got to prepare for the some regards the inevitable during a hurricane season, because eventually it's going to happen, or you got to prepare for the unexpected. But I think that good leadership provides that. And not always are we blessed with the right kind of leadership. We've been blessed in Florida with having governors that have actually been very, very strong leaders as it relates to hurricane preparedness, and much more important when you have one, the obviously response time and all these other things. But I think that other than hopefully helping you have good leadership, I think that communities also work really, really hard at trying to, for example, Florida's code, which it's a little bit related to your field as well, because it's all related to the risk realities of insurance and preparation. But Florida's code changed dramatically after Hurricane Andrew.
Building code,
yeah, building code. I'm sorry, and that obviously was a great reality that helped everything from property values to help create a code that other cities and states have modeled theirs, and we're considered, pioneers in that regard. So, talk about what the communities do to prepare. Sometimes, unfortunately, it happens following the reaction to a crisis, or the reaction to an unfortunate situation like a hurricane. I'm sure I trust California has learned a whole lot from what has happened to them lately with these fires and these floods. Because I would imagine some aspects of it, could have been avoided, could have been prevented. Who knows? I don't want to get into political talk on things that I'm not qualified to give my opinion on. But at the end of the day, they all are related to this reality of preparedness. So again, I think it boils down to leadership and good leadership, and the last, let's just say, the modern political times, the last 20 years, this state has been very fortunate to have had a good set of leadership that has been very helpful to create the environment that exists, where many residents of many states are opting to be Floridians as opposed to whatever they were before. And I think that happens not by accident. It happens by good leaders preparing their respective communities for sound decision making. And again, that's easy to say. Speaking is a lot easier than doing. Of course, in this state, we've been blessed with doing a heck of a whole lot as of late, for sure.
So, with that being said, leadership is a great segue to talking more about what your first year is going to look like? What do you how are you going to personally measure success in your first 12 months? We're 100 days in, so we're going to the train has left the station at this point, right?
Yeah.
And when you look back after a year, I know that's a shortened time period, but a year is a good kind of place to turn around and say, okay, let's reflect here and figure out what we do better or what we did well, and replicate that. So after your first year, how are you going to measure first? How are you going to measure success?
So I think that you first have to rely on data to measure a success, uh, and you have to rely on data and facts. So it's inevitable for whoever's going to measure that success, whether it's me or my bosses and my board or whoever comes back and assesses what has happened this past calendar year. They're going to have to begin and probably end with membership, right? It's not the only important factor, but membership is critical. But membership, there's a few categories within that major category of membership, which includes, as we were saying earlier, retention. So retention rates, for example, the average national retention rate average for chambers of commerce in the United States is somewhere in the 72%. So if your chamber is somewhere in that 72% range on average for retention, which means that 72 out of 100 folks that were up for renewed, you're in the top percentile of what the country's data numbers are. So I will tell you that the reality of the matter is I inherited an environment that was not at the 70s. It was an environment that's in the high 60s. And this chamber had always had above 70 to 72 renewal rate. And unfortunately, from the time that my predecessor fell ill to the time he passed, it started to drop a bit, which is understandable. It was also all during a post-COVID environment. So those realities kind of cause the scenario. But I've inherited a chamber that's sound, financially sound. It's stable. It's in good shape. It needs a lot of work in some regards in some areas, but on the renewal rate, we're in the high 60s, and I think that in the next 6 months, maybe I should say in the next 3 months, we probably will be able to raise the bar to where we used to be for apparently steadily for many years, which was in the 70s, on average in the 70s, 70 to 72%. So that's a goal I've set, and one that hopefully will be measured relatively easy. I would say probably 3-4 months from now. The other important piece of information that I will hope to look at by the end of this calendar year, let's say, is going to be our financial standing. We are in good shape financially. Our reserves are strong, and the chamber has been very conservative in its yearly budgeting, and we're going to intentionally remain that way. But we do kind of a zero-based budget approach. So we budget pretty much what we're going to spend. We don't really, intentionally budget a larger number with a goal of finding the money somewhere. My sense of it, to be very honest with you, Matt, is that it's not about padding the budget. It's really about developing a budget that includes the ability for you to raise money for, some call it a rainy day, others call it a reserve. We have reserves that we have that are invested in the market and various investments that are never touched. Those are just there for that proverbial rainy day emergency. But I will probably approach this next year when I will have a chance to help develop a budget in partnership with my board, whereby we look at raising an additional amount of money so that we actually have some flexibility in the event any opportunity takes place. Like, for example, what do I mean by that? Well, for example, this community just finished going through a national championship. The national championship, the race to the national championship, which you don't really know until you get there. Right. Now the expectations are great, right? Now for next year, everybody assumes we're going to the national championship. Imagine that for expectation, right? It wasn't the case before the season. But my point in bringing that up is that sometimes these kinds of realities, events that really most would say, well, what does that have to do with the Chamber of Commerce? Well, you might be able to do an event, do a partnered approach with an entity or who knows what that is built around the game that you could do if you have the flexibility of funds to invest in the event and the activity. But if you don't have the flexibility of fund, given the fact that you didn't plan for that, you can't make that decision. Or you might not be able to take advantage of that opportunity. So, whether it's a rainy day or whether it's flexibility for a potential opportunity, I'm probably going to do the budgeting a little bit differently where I want to build not a cushion, not padding the budget. It's just raise additional monies that give me flexibility to make decisions that could be helpful to the chamber.
Yeah. So going back to the question I was asking about partnerships, visibility, things like that. We have the World Cup coming here soon.
Absolutely.
The Olympics that's going to be over on the West Coast. But these are little things that I think is what I'm hearing you talk about. Is these things can be very effective for membership, for building a bigger base and a bigger chamber. And I totally understand what you're saying. We do the same thing. Always want to plan. You always want to plan it. So the goal isn't to just talk about numbers all day just for the sake of talking about numbers. Is to build the business, right? To build the chamber, right? So I totally get that. Now, with all that being said, we're gonna do another interview in a year, right? On your 365th day, or on or about. But if you were to look back after telling me about your goals here, what would you hope that someone in the chamber or people that are with you all the time, what would you hope that they turn around and say, oh wow, after a year, this has fundamentally changed, or this is great? What would you want them to say?
Well, listen, we've been existing for 100 years, and that's easy to say and tougher to do. The chamber has enormous opportunity, even though we've been around for 100 years, to really improve a few items. For example, we have, on average, we have 14 events a month. Okay. So when I said we have 14 events a month, I'm referring to events that we do monthly, like Good Morning Core Gables. That's a monthly breakfast, the second Thursday of the month, every month. And that's among the larger attended events that we do every month, where we're bringing in a feature speaker, or it could be a panel. And it's an established event that's been going on for decades that everybody knows happens on that day on a Thursday morning at 7:30 at the Biltmore Hotel. So, so what does that mean as it relates to this conversation? Well, what it means is that there's 13 other events that we do on average monthly, and some that we do more than once a month because we might be doing them weekly. Like, for example, we have what we call a Wind Down Wednesday. So
I've been to one of those already.
You've been to one of those. And Wind Down Wednesday are exactly what the title refers, which is intended to be a kick your shoes off, okay, relax Wednesday night with a little bit of a slant to younger professionals, the 25 to 40, 45, no limit on either younger or older, but that's sort of the focus, is to constantly work the young professional community, because we have to work on that every day, because the average age of a chamber member historically has been older, and we're trying to modernize that to make being a part of the chamber a bit hipper, be a little more identifiable with young professionals. And I think every organization works on that, but we're putting extra effort into that. And I can go on and give you the rest of the events. There's a women's business lunch that actually happened today. That happens on the second Tuesday of every month. So there's a lot of these kind of built-in, established events that more than likely they're going to continue. I just like to take a different approach as I inherit all these realities. Is is make sure that the events are sustainable. Sometimes you have events that maybe don't make money, but they don't lose money, but they have a different reason for existing. That's okay too.
Sure.
Sometimes you have to get a hold of an event that's been around maybe for decades, needs to be shifted a little bit, in one direction or the other for whatever reason. So that's part of what we're doing is trying to assess all that and then figure out what I don't want to become is events, an organization that is solely focused on doing events for the sake of doing events. Yes, networking is critically important for business organizations because at the end of the day, what Chamber is trying to do is to use their platform to help people get together, hopefully to do business.
Yep.
But there's a lot of other things that Chambers can do, and this is what I really hope to be known for, as you say, when it's looked at in retrospect. And I want to be known for the gentleman, the president, who helped maximize technology to take a chamber to the next level. So what does that mean? That means that as we speak, we're working diligently to develop a AI-based system, artificial intelligence-based system. And as you know with AI, AI is as good as the information you feed it because you can use all the fancy language you want and you use all the AI you want. And if the information you're feeding into the AI system that you're creating isn't accurate or isn't relevant, you're pretty much wasting your money and your time. So we are developing a system that has not ever been done before to our knowledge. For all I know, other chambers might be working on it right as we speak. We'll see who is. We're out for the races. We'll see who does it first. But I believe, and I was telling the folks that I'm working with on this, that we really got to put the pedal to the metal because I'd be shocked if other, and not just major metropolitan areas like Miami-Dade County, in our case, Coral Gables, but I'd be shocked if there aren't others already working on this because AI is a reality of today. It's not a reality of the future. It's no longer something planning for. This is impacting our lives every day. And I'm convinced that while there hasn't been an AI system for membership retention that's been announced, and we've scrubbed that issue real well to figure out if there really is anyone. There's not out there, but there's probably going to have to be one, and we're going to be facing competition pretty soon. The goal is not to be the first one, and that's the race. The race is to really build something that is actually significant and relevant to our chamber. And what we want to do with this system is build a system that allows the staff and the members use AI to help elevate the amount of business that members do with each other. So this technology today's world helps you do everything from advise you how many meetings XYZ company has been to in the last month, week, 2 days. How many have they missed? It allows you to gather data like nothing else is ever done, right? Proactively, and it also allows you to utilize this information to do other things like connect two companies that happen to be members who one might be looking for the other to do business. And in the old days, which is today, like as we speak today, the way that is done is somebody picks up the phone and calls a staff or a member, our membership director, and they say, "Hey, I'm in this business and I'm looking to do business with people who sell this or who buy this or who are part of projects of this magnitude. Can you help me figure out who those members are at the chamber?" And imagine what it would take. It would take that staffer to do their own manual research. And imagine doing that for 1,600 members.
Yeah. Tough.
It's impossible.
So tough, yeah.
And not only is it impossible, the accuracy is not there. So all these agents, as they call them, all these robots that work for us now are the ones that are doing all this work for you. Again, provided that you establish the right system with the right amount of data. So I hope that among the things we accomplish, because we're working on it as we speak, is an AI system or an AI-based system that allows us to work, helps us work on this retention issue. Because if we help members find value, that's half the battle, about 3/4 of the battle. And that's one of the things that we are working overtime on. And I'm incredibly encouraged we're going to be able to do that. So So between AI, one of the other things we've done here in a short order is believe it or not, we have 21 committees of the board that exist at this chamber. We didn't have a technology committee. So we have just got that going. We're going to elevate our real estate committee to the level where it belongs. And not that we haven't been doing good work there, but the city of Coral Gables has got so much development activity going on. Construction. So it's all the areas. There's development, construction, real estate, all the related industries,
residential, everything.
It's all it's an incredibly important part of the reality of the economy of Coral Gables. So we are elevating the group, the effort of that group, and that committee, to the next level. So between the technology side, the real estate side, and there's a few others I could mention that we're going to work on. I think it's really about. So anyway, so a chamber like this has been around this long, has kind of built the infrastructure. Now it's time to fill in the areas where we really could help take it to the next level. The next level here, Matt, doesn't just mean get more members. It means increase the value that you bring to the members by doing activities or by doing, it could be events, it could be providing data. I mean, we have an obligation to provide value to members, but we also have an opportunity that perhaps it's harder to do for an individual company because you have economies of scale that associations provide. And collaboration is probably the other category, and with this I'll be quiet, that I really believe is an important responsibility of a Chamber of Commerce. So historically, there's been a lot of, let's call it protectionism. We all know the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce. This is not a criticism of anybody. It's just a reality. Yeah. And my approach to this business of community work is that we all benefit from collaborating with other chambers. And I'm working diligently already so that from doing the basic mixtures that we do to network, doing them jointly with other organizations is smart. No one loses. If X percentage of members of mine or members of the other chamber that you're going to do an event with, so what happens with the great balance? It's 20% are members of my chamber and that other chamber, and 80% are not. Well, why not do an event? If 20 agree already, you have 80 that maybe have not met each other because they're not members of the chamber. Yeah. And I'm not naive to think that there isn't crossover. Of course there's crossover. Yeah, absolutely. But that's the reason why it makes sense to do things collaboratively. It's not about my island and your island. Yeah. This is a big ecosystem in Miami-Dade County. Working together is good for the benefit of all.
So that might be another chance for us to get into the studio here and bring some of the other CEOs and other presidents of chambers and get everyone at the table and talk about that. Right. So
that would be great.
I think that's a great discussion, So okay. So I hear looking back, technology is the driver, is what it sounds like, and that's what you want people to see and feel.
It's a key driver. I'm not sure it's the only driver. Okay, it's a very key driver. Absolutely.
What else do you think going to make you happy? Hear people look back after a year.
Well, I think that the other reality is that the work you do to sort of pay forward and give back to the community is important. So we are set up as a not-for-profit because that's what a business association does, but we also happen to have a foundation that the chamber has. It used to be called the Coral Gables Chamber Foundation. It was recently renamed to be the Mark H. Trowbridge Chamber Foundation, and it was renamed in his honor to obviously honor a great man who did great things in this community, and a man that really had a special place in his heart for community activity. The Chamber Foundation activity is going to be about sort of two things. One is to support other not-for-profits. Out of our 1,600 members, we probably have about 300 change not-for-profits. 300 change, I think a number, that are part of our chamber. Wow. So everyone joins for a different reason. They're all not joining for the same reason, but I would venture to guess that a relatively small not-for-profit, when I say small, I mean not a National United Way or not a National Boys and Girls Club, but rather the local chapter of the Boys and Girls Club. They're all McDonald House, but maybe it's the local chapter, not the national organization. They all participate, or they look to participate in a chamber like ours, probably because they're looking for, what all not-for-profits look for, which is money. We're not really set up to give every one of these organizations money because that's not really the main reason for our existence in this regard. But we are set up to provide smaller not-for-profits with tools that they might need to be able to go find that money.
Sure. Yeah.
Or tools that they might need to go be able to access other donors, other companies. So we're going to ramp up the work that we do in the community because there's a lot of opportunity there for us to do our job, give the chamber exposure, and at the same time provide them with support that they need to meet their goals and commitments. So
that's right.
There too there could be a lot of collaboration, no different than we could do with other chambers of commerce. And I think helping them with a platform where they can go learn some of the skill sets required to help them go from being maybe smaller foundations to be bigger is one of the things that we can do as the Chamber Foundation. So
right.
There is a community commitment side of the Chamber that collectively happens under the Mark H. Trowbridge Foundation that I think is good for companies, it's good for not-for-profits, and that's what we are looking to do by elevating the work of that foundation.
Right. We're always happy to help at GlobalPro. So it's a cornerstone of our core values here. It's something we do a lot. You mentioned when you walked in, you saw the sneakers on the wall. So we have a GlobalPro Cares Foundation that we do an initiative where we do sneaker drives and trying to collect sneakers that we've been doing almost annually for
that's great.
Probably since 2018. So wow, it's 2026. I can't believe it. It's been a long time, and so. That's just again for me. The team here, we have a very bad sneaker habit. All of us love sneakers, and I have a lot of sneakers. I have to admit, and you can look back in some of our other podcasts, you can see that. But we're always trying to give back, and that's one of the ways that makes it fun for us and do those things. But we've done all sorts of different things with the LPA, with other organizations. We're always happy to help out. So by all means, let us know how we can help there.
Great, absolutely.
I want to switch gears a little bit here. You answered all the business, the chamber business like questions, and I want to do some personal stuff here if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. First, I mean, you and I have talked about it. Just the long days right now and the evenings. But what does a typical morning look like for you? And what part of your day are you protecting right now at all costs? No matter what, you have a little slice of the day that is protected.
Good question. So the part of my day that I'm protecting at all costs, and I failed in the last couple of days because it's been such a long day with all kinds of activities, is my workout. I need to not only keep the workout protected for my body, but for my mind. And that's the case that you hear, most executives and business folks that are busy, and they're being honest with you, they'll tell you that workout is not only the great escape, the great therapy, but it's required for the mental sanity as much as the physical sanity and the physical health. So I try really hard at keeping that sort of secret. I feel the last 2-3 days, but I'm going right back to it tomorrow. So
it was championship week, so we can take this.
Well, I guess you can blame anything depending on the championship. That barbecue wasn't very helpful.
No, it wasn't. I was there too. So great. So what does the morning look like for you now? You working out in the mornings or?
So if I were to be able to fully control my schedule, I'd be working at 5 a.m. and getting it out of the way just because once you do it, you've done it.
Yep.
And as for those who actually practice this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You really benefit because you have the mental health of knowing that you got it done. So that does something to your psyche, right? It does also something to your body.
Something hard first thing.
Absolutely.
Something hard.
And the only challenge with me in the morning is that no matter what time I start, if I have a breakfast meeting or a meeting that happens to be in the morning, it's harder because you got to do the whole logistics of getting to the gym, and you got to shower at the gym, and you got to get to the and I much prefer to not have to get dressed and all that at a gym rather than doing it at home. So, but the important thing is the advice that I would give to anybody is don't be so stuck on the time of day you do it as much as that you do it, and that's more important because if you end up like doing it at night, late at night, but you do it before you go to bed, of course, that makes it harder to go to bed because your body is obviously, you know, uh, energized like it does when you work out. But I would say if it's going to cause you to miss it, do it at night. Doesn't matter what time of day you do it, as long as you do it. If you can own your schedule a little bit more than I currently can, I think eventually this will kind of normalize a little bit, and I can manage my schedule a little bit better. But until you can't, until you can, I would recommend you just find the time to do it. It might very well go from here to go work out because I know I'm not going to be able to do it in the morning. So I didn't do it earlier. I can do it now. So, who knows? You just play with that. But you just got to be committed to that, whatever it is, 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever you do. But easier said than done, right?
Yeah. But I believe in all that, which is, if you do it in the morning, which I was a 5 a.m. guy for a long, long time, you do it in the morning, it's hard. I go back to, I think it was, I forget the general's name. It was, I can't think of his name, but he made this whole speech. It was at University of Texas at their commencement. He made this whole speech about making your bed, right? He was talking about 10 things that they see that. And he said, it's small, but I make the bed every day. It just puts you in that frame of mind, Working out was for me back in the day too. I mean, I was in the water, either in the pool, or I was on the bike, or I was running. I was doing triathlons. Believe it or not, I was doing triathlons back in the day. But I mean, that set the whole day up. And it's not, you're not doing that every day, but you're doing it 2-3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. It definitely sets up your entire day.
But you're absolutely right, and I agree with that, General. I've heard that speech,
yeah,
and he's absolutely right.
Crystal,
I don't remember the name, but it's clearly there's something to be said about what you feel when you go through the motions of making your bed and leaving it, especially for a military person who are slightly organized and control freaks, right? The impeccable bed that doesn't have a single wrinkle, but it's not just making a bed.
a little different. Yeah,
it's a little different. But there's something to be said about that, and I agree with that, and I think it's a good speech for everybody to listen to, especially the young.
Yeah. So with that being said, talking about generals, presidents, CEOs of the chamber, when things get uncomfortable, do you have a kind of like a Ray Dalio or a leadership principle that you fall back on when things get comfortable and you have to make uncomfortable decisions have to be made? Is there something that you focus in on to help you get to that decision?
Quite honestly, the power of prayer is the power of prayer. And while you can't live your life, leaving it up to chance and the Lord and pray, you could, but sometimes it's kind of like there's a joke in Spanish about, it's a joke in Spanish about that my dad used to tell me all the time, which was, this guy's praying to God to, I need you to help me, win the lotto. And at the end of the day, the moral of the story, the moral of the joke, I guess I should say, was God tells the gambler, "Dude, you got to buy a ticket. I can't help you otherwise." So what I mean by that is that you're going to help yourself if you want God to help you. So it starts by you got to lead by example. You got you gotta help yourself first, and then God might pitch in a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make really is that I try, and I'm not, I'm your typical Catholic. I'm, a Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school, so I let the guilt guide me, So, so I seated myself into, again, the Catholic guilt. But the point, really important part of the serious part of this is that I try to take a deep breath and there's another saying I learned as a kid, also in Spanish for whatever reason. My parents would tell us these. I guess the reason I'm trying to raise you, so of course I'm going to tell you the jokes or whatever. But it was like in Spanish, it would be some guy would tell his butler, "Vísteme rápido que estoy apurado. Vísteme despacio que estoy apurado." So he's telling dress me, help me get dressed slowly because I'm in a hurry. The point being is that in those moments of crises, the worst thing you can do is just lose your cool. And the best thing you can do is take a deep breath, believe in the good Lord, but help yourself if you want God to help you, which is, you can't just ask for help and live a shitty life. You should ask for help if you're a man of faith and principle during the good times, right? So I don't want to get too deep and philosophical here, but the point being is that I think you gotta realize what you can control, and realize what you can't control. But ask the good Lord for help and live a good Christian life when you don't need the help. And therefore, you build, if nothing else, is good karma, right? That's the reserve, man. Yeah, you can't be a bad guy and all of a sudden, need something and thank God you need your help. I've been the biggest bad guy, last 2 weeks. I'm so sorry about that. I'll fix that on Monday. So, it's an interesting question because I think you gotta pace yourself, especially during a tough crisis, because losing your cool is not gonna help, and you gotta leave it up to God. I mean, you see the scheme the other night, you see of course, I'm a young guy, but I recognize talent. And this Mendoza, a young man, is impressive as hell. And the coolness with which he plays the game, I mean, the stoic behavior, very calm, cool. And part of it is probably very much so because he's a man of faith and he just believes that, God's going to be there, and he probably helps himself so that God can help him because obviously he's disciplined. Obviously he's, he creates a good aura about him because he tries to live a good life, right? So it's interesting to me. You gotta be balanced. It's not going to work out. You're going to have some crappy days. That's life, right? Yeah. It's like us the other day that we couldn't get whatever was the one. Now here we are today. Successfully done. We're good, right? Air works and lights are working. Everything's working. So we figured it out. So that's great. That's great. Thank you. So a little bit of a twist in the next question, but you mentioned the gym before helps you think clearly, helps you kind of reset and recharge and all that. But is there a place in Coral Gables that maybe you go to sometimes to think, or a place that helps you do that in Coral Gables? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't want to give the wrong impression and sound like a perfect Catholic, because I'm not. St. Augustine is St. Augustine Catholic Church is the church that we go to. Happens to be a place where if you've been there, you know that it's a very kind of modest, humble church, very serene, peaceful, like all churches are, but for a community like Jorge L's, it's really almost a little bit of a misfit because you'd think you'd be like in a place like Epiphany, for example, which is blazing solar opposite, which is also an incredible church, and it is everything that we're talking about here. But for some reason, to me, I gravitate to St. Augustine, even though I love Epiphany because there's nothing not to like about our friends who like the gem, but senior who built the cathedral, as they like to chat them about, always call it the cathedral because it's built like a cathedral, like a community church, right? But I think St. Augustine and Epiphany both are great places to not only to worship, but to go find serenity and there's a number of places too, but that is among in my opinion among the better ones. But there's a lot of them all over the city.
Great. So, couple more. One is going to be about a moment that tested you in your first 100 days, and then that moment tested you. But what did you do? What did it teach you? What was the result?
Wow, that's a great question. Another great question. So yeah, I mean, I think that we've had a number of human resource staff issues. I've inherited a team, and that team doesn't always work out, and there's change, so everybody doesn't react that way to change. And I had a moment where I was relying on a person who had committed to be part of the team, and when the going got tough, the proverbial tough guy going, kind of whatever that saying is, it shocked me, surprised me, disappointed me. But I accept it. It is what it is. Everybody has a choice, and calls for a couple of very difficult days, but nothing is unsurmountable. You just gotta stay steady and believe. I don't know that I would have done anything else but what I did, because the choices are limited. You just got to go find the replacement and deal with it. And that's what we did, but it taught me a lot, because sometimes in life you take things for granted. You never think that, this or that could happen. And those are mistakes to make, because you just never know. So what could I have done? What could have I done differently? You try to always have a contingency plan. That's not always realistic, because why would you have a contingency plan about everything you do? That's almost an impossible feat. You gotta take your chances.
So that's not you. That's not your mindset, though. I don't think. Just in general, you're more positive than that.
I'm more fearless than I am fearful.
Yeah.
And those who are fearless don't just necessarily act reactively on gut or shoot from the hip, but when you act fearlessly, you just trust in your instinct, and you take a chance. So if you're going to do something with your life and you're going to be successful, or at least you're going to try to be successful, I think you gotta be fearless, and you have to just hope that it goes well. But it's impossible to have a contingency plan for everything. So what would I have done differently? I don't know the answer to that, other than to maybe, test somebody out longer, rather than just assume because of all these different reasons you think they check off all the boxes. Maybe you have a longer list of checkoffs. I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe the example is not the ideal one, because it's a human resource issue. I think God is what you should really go by. I really am a big believer that you could be wrong, but what your gut tells you is usually where you should want to be.
I think. I agree. At last, rapid fire.
Yes, sir.
All right, you ready? One word to describe the chamber's future with.
Superb.
Superb. Love it.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, I thought that was it. I thought I was going to list of rapid fires, but I don't.
Just one.
Superb, I would say, is I will perceive to be a great place, and I say perceived only because when you go inside, you peel back that onion or that orange or whatever you want to peel, you start seeing the imperfections. It's normal.
Yeah, of course.
And it's a good thing that the things that are perhaps imperfect about it are things that are not that visible, and you can work on them. But I think that those things are not only going to be improved, but we're also we have, in my opinion, and this happens whenever you have the same leader in an organization for an extended period of time. When you have somebody there for an extended period of time, and 19 years is an extended period of time, whether it's you get set in your ways, or whether you get stale, or whether it's things you get personalized around that individual. These are all realities that could happen to you, happen to me, which is why I'm a believer, not just because I'm a believer in general at these kind of jobs, especially public ones. This is obviously a private sector job. It's not a government job, but it's very public. These kind of jobs, there should be a term limit. If I can't do what I think needs to be done with the World Gables Chamber of Commerce in the next 10 years, I'm probably not going to do it, because 10 years is a good amount of time, yeah, in the private sector environment to really effectuate change, to really, as they say, mix it up or take it to the next level, whatever phrase you want to use. If I can't do it in 10 years, I'm probably not gonna do it after 10 years. So, um, in my belief, and it's got nothing to do with my age, but it has everything to do with my age. I think there has to be a limit on the amount of time, because otherwise you get stale. Otherwise, it takes too long to make a decision. So I think in 10 years or less or more, who knows? Hopefully, we're going to be able to do some of these things to take this chamber to the next level, and we have all the ingredients to do it. It just can only happen with good friends like you. So we thank GlobalPro and you for all you've been a part of this effort. So thank you.
Appreciate it. We're looking to do some good things with you guys, as I keep saying. So we're hoping to get moving on that stuff and bring the chamber to the next level. And from a technology standpoint, I think we can help out with that, as you know, right? So that's going to be an interesting first year. Right, whatever we can figure out. Not only GlobalPro, but also obviously Nucleus. Which I think we got some news coming up here, which will be cool.
Absolutely.
Soon, and we'll talk about that. But otherwise, thank you, Jordan. I mean, thank you. I'm absolutely eternally grateful for the opportunity to do this with you. This is 100 years for the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce in your first 100 days. It's an amazing chance to I jumped in. I appreciate the time. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you. And again, thank you for all those who are already part of it. Without you, we wouldn't be where we're at. And with you, we'll be able to get to the next level. We are the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce, where business thrives and community flourishes.